Howdy folks. Today in the garden I have a tale of a monster to tell you. Specifically, a shrub that I should have pruned way back in the spring, and I definitely didn't. And like a real gardener, I'm gonna do it now in the middle of the summer. Growing up, we had a saying in my family, who admittedly are gardeners, so I don't come by this all by my lonesome or my bootstraps. The saying was, when the Forsythia bloom, it's time to prune. You may or may not be familiar with Forsythia, depending on where you live, but here in Zone 6B in the United States, in the spring, the Forsythia are a kind of shrub that put on an amazing show of bright yellow blooms early in the spring. And that's how you know when it's time to prune your roses. Well, at least those are the ones I'm looking at usually for pruning, but different shrubs right in the spring when things are just starting to break dormancy. Forsythia, I usually prune after the blooming stops because then they're just a green shrub like anything else. And I didn't do it this year. And so I'm about to show you something a little terrifying. Keep in mind, I'm about 5.5 feet tall. Dun, dun, dun. This Forsythia has not been pruned, definitely not this spring. And I think possibly I didn't even prune it in the fall when I should have. But I'm gonna prune it today because the weather's finally not insanely hot. It's also not deluging rain. So I'm gonna take a little experiment and see if I can do this in a way where like the video goes super fast. Maybe. I'm gonna try to set it up so you can watch me prune and then I'll kind of explain what I did. But maybe I'll show you some of the things that are wrong with it first. All right, so first off, this plant is far too dense. There's big canes, little itty bitty canes, everything's crossing in between one another and making it extremely dense, making airflow really slow, which can lead to moisture trapping. And when moisture traps in between leaves and branches, that's where pathogens like fungus can be among us. So what's my strategy when I'm pruning this thing? Mostly I'm going to try to clip it back to what looks like strong living canes. Like right here you can see this one's nice and strong and it's green. That can stay. Whereas if we get in here, even though this one's definitely living, well, that's not too bad. It's still pretty strappy. Somewhere in here I know I'm gonna find some all brown, dead, crispy canes that can go. And for sure, oh God, that's so close. Sorry guys. There's gonna be a lot of little branches. See, this one is very thin. We don't need to keep that. That's not gonna really provide much strength to the plant. It's just gonna take up energy and make airflow a lot slower. So we'll probably get rid of these guys. All right, let's see where I can set you up so that we can trim this Forsythia back into something less beastly. But we're not really done yet. My goal whenever I'm pruning something this gnarly with this much tangling going on is really I'm trying to get it short enough that I can actually see what's going on further down. Nice thing about Forsythia is that it likes a heavy pruning. I'm probably not going to mess this up. I could probably take it real close to the ground and it would still come up and be a beautiful show in the spring next year. Look at these dogs. This is Harley and Lucky helping me out by reviewing everything we just pruned out of that bush. Yep. So now I'm going to try to take out some of the thinner pieces. You can see we've got really big canes here that I might try to preserve, but the smaller ones, really thin ones, are going to go, just to kind of, again, thin out the crown of this plant and give it better airflow. All right. I'm not going to act like this is perfect, but this is knocked down enough that I feel like things are cleaned up and that there's a lot more aeration around the crown of this plant. I am not a professional shrub sculptor of sorts, I would say. I'm not looking for a particular shape or trying to train this into something sophisticated. I'm just trying to lighten it up. So just to give you a sense of, you know, again, dogs for scale. Thanks. Oh, chewing on it too. That's great. It's not pretty at all, but you can see down here in the crown how there was a lot of wet leaves and it was looking kind of gross. We'll get a little more aeration in here. That'll be nice. Meanwhile, again, for contrast, here's how much we took off the shrub today. It's a whole lot. And I'm gonna have to make sure to clean it up before anybody tries to use the driveway. But Forsythia is one of those plants that can handle a really hard prune like this. And because I'm pruning it back during its growth season, it's gonna have plenty of time to gather energy from the leaves it does have and spin up new canes all over the place. So by the time fall comes around, it'll still be in good shape. It'll look like a normal plant probably by then. And then I should probably prune it before winter, but probably I'll forget. That's a time of year I kind of forget to do pruning. Maybe someday I'll get better at it. Anyway, that's the monster that we've slain today. One of the things that it reminded me of while I was slashing away at it was that one of my sons was watching videos about what makes a good horror genre, like what makes a really good scary movie, what makes a good monster. And the spoiler alert, the finding for that particular YouTube video was that the best monsters are the ones that you never can quite kill. They will always come crawling back. And to me, Forsythia is definitely one of those monsters. You will never, you will never kill it. There's even a little copse of it that I have in the backyard that someone spilled Roundup on to try to get rid of it, and it's still coming back. That's what's beautiful about Forsythia, but it does mean that you're entering into a relationship where if you want to keep it looking a little less monstrous, you're gonna have to wage battle a little bit every year. But I think that's kind of therapeutic. I mean, look at the difference that we made. So that's one of those things that always research your plants to make sure it's the kind that likes pruning, and then have at it and relish in the difference that you make in your plants. Anyway, that's me. That's Amber from the garden, fighting monsters, keeping it pretty, the usual. All right, take care. Bye.